Now is officially mounted into our K-truck. So after several months and weeks, this is a massive milestone for our truck. So, welcome back to Kit and Builds and part 2 of mounting our Honda Fireblade motorbike engine into our Honda K-truck. In the last K-truck video, we basically got the engine perfectly in place. We've got our new X3 prop shaft and all the adapters mounted into place, which are still waiting to be remade into metal. We have our first main bar of mounting the engine into place, so now we can just continue work getting this engine mounted into place and sitting it exactly where it needs to be. It's there position wise, but we need to physically mount it to this truck in order for us to actually call it a conversion. So without further ado, let me just show you where we're at so far, and then we can dive into getting this engine officially mounted into our K-truck. So far for mounting the engine, we have our piece which comes all across here. We haven't mounted these to the chassis yet. What we're going to do is use 5mm plates and bolt through the chassis rail both ends. We've also got to add another piece of that to there. That's what the wood is representing, and basically what we have here but the other side of the engine. The first mount we have created, there's a mounting point down there and one there, and all we've done is tie that into the first piece. The first piece I'm going to attack in this video is getting these two mounts created. So essentially we're going to have in the tube piece which will sit on the end there. We're going to plate the insides of one side with a hole in the middle so you can basically access the bolt from the outside. I'm going to do one for this side, one for this side. This side has to be a little bit longer, but I'll explain that later on. We have purchased a tube notcher, so we're going to give that a go today. Should make life a little bit easier. You can do a lot of these with angle grinders. I had previously 3D printed these. These are just kind of templates you slide onto the steel and you can mark different degrees. So this is a 30-degree cut. So if you have a piece of metal flat vertically, you can add a piece of tube at a 30-degree angle, and this is the exact cut you need to make. But with a tube notcher, that should make life a lot easier. But there is a lot of cutting, welding and fabricating we need to do, so let's just crack on, start with them pieces as they're fairly straightforward, and we can go from there. So that's the first part of this section now made. All I've done is kind of use a long threaded bar to hold it into place. There is a rubber that sits in there, and I've kind of tried to guess roughly where this is going to be. On the real thing, between the rubber and the rubber that goes in there, there is a spacer which goes in here just to stop everything compressing together. And I'm still missing some stuff, but I have got a kit for all of the mounting gear to go on here, which is on the way. So that's the first piece cut on the tube notcher. Really impressed so far. And what we have essentially is that will sit onto there, and now we've got to work out the right angle and get a cut angle for this piece here to mount onto there. So I have now finished cutting the first piece, ready to join onto the mount that's attached to the engine. I did come to realise a bit of a mistake I made was cutting off a piece of pipe that was too short to kind of go into the tube notcher. I did try and hold it in. You might have seen it in the time lapse, looks a bit botched in a way, but I did manage to cut halfway through, but then I just had to use the template and angle grind some of it. It would have worked, but I just didn't leave myself enough on the tube mounted into the vise of the tube notcher to really give me enough room. But let me show you how this looks, as it does look pretty good. All this will do now is sit 90 degree onto that piece there, and obviously it won't sit really in place perfectly yet, but that is how it's going to sit. So now that this mount is fully finished, what I'm going to look at next is the two end pieces which are going to be used to bolt through the chassis to officially attach this to the chassis rails. And that's where I've come up with this. Essentially the large section of this, it will sit like that. The tube will be welded to this, and then we can use the hole on this. We can then use a nice 10mm high tensile bolt to bolt straight through the chassis rail. So I have marked up the tubes on the frame. I've marked 5mm off the frame, as this is 5mm thick. So what I got to do now is take that piece off the engine, as I know that bolts on where it needs to go. Mark where the rail is now, bolt this into the actual chassis rails, and then we can go from there. So I have trimmed the ends of the bars, so hopefully they fit in the gap now, and as you can see, they're in there ready to go. What I'm gonna have to do is just take them out, clean them up. Need to clean everything up for welding, and you can see it bolted through the chassis rail. This side, there's a box here that was already here, which you can see is bolted in. What I'm going to eventually do is basically carry on this wall here on the outside to basically strengthen the chassis rail, the same there, and I'm going to create a box in the chassis rail either side of the bolt that side to strengthen it up, but that will come later down the line. Just like that, with a little bit of persuasion and lining up, the tube that comes across now fits perfectly onto them pieces we have just made both sides. So what I've got to do now is, the bars are all tidied up, everything's ready to tack weld, but I just need to double check all of my dimensions, making sure the engine and everything hasn't moved while I'm messing around. Once it's all in place, get it tack welded together, and that means that the engine is officially mounted to our truck. So that is one side officially done, absolutely solid. You're going to move the truck before you move this bar now. Bolted in. Once these are plated up, which they will be, that should stop them moving at the minute, but at the minute they are kind of trying to pull together because they are just bending this inside wall. But what I'm going to do now is move on to this side. So as you would have seen, we cut the other bar ready for mounting the other side of the engine. I've also got this in place now with the new hardware, and that's kind of bolted together. It's not tight yet, but it's tight enough for us to hold it in the right position. So I've checked everything, it's perfectly level, both there, so the truck is level and both of these are perfectly level. I measured them that way as well, they're both within 1mm of each other either end, so this is pretty much perfectly square. But let's just get this done. You've seen it this side, so I'll crack on, get it cut, and I'll show you what it looks like fitting in. So we have made a load of progress, so let me show you where we're at. But now we currently have the piece going across there you would have seen earlier. What we'll end up doing is trimming that at an angle around there. Same behind there, I left this one a bit short, but we will trim this at an angle. This is tack welded to this bar, and we also made our little bracket for this side. There's only one mount, unlike this side. Obviously we had the top mount there and the bottom mount. I've stole the bolt there for that one for the time being, but all I've got to do now is create the end plates. So I'll get them done and we should pretty much be done, and I'll show you what the final finish looks like for the time being. So as you can see, I have removed everything now which was holding the engine into place. The engine's actually moved as well, and I've also removed the prop shaft, as we shouldn't really need that in place now. What we're going to do next is, now I've added the spot welds even more, bolt it in at the front, slide the engine in place, bolt the back one on, and that is it for the time being. It should take a lot less time now, as I can access things a lot easier doing it all one at a time. So without further ado, let's get the final mock-up into place, and I can show you how it looks partly finished, as we have got a lot more to do in future videos. Now it's officially mounted into our K-Truck. It's off the floor, it's suspended in the air using the bars we've obviously put in. It looks pretty good. There's a lot left for us to do, but let me show you how it looks so far. So this is the piece of wood that the engine was previously sat on, but now it is officially in the air. I have jacked the front up a little bit just to show you how it's off the floor, but it is looking pretty good. I did also try the prop shaft in the gap there, and it fits in perfectly. So after several months and weeks, this is a massive milestone for our truck. The engine is officially mounted into our K-Truck and one step closer to being finished. There is still lots left to do. We still have to put our radiators, all the coolant lines, the air suspension, fuel tanks, all sorts of stuff like that yet. So make sure to go and subscribe if you want to see how we get all that fitted in. We're going to put X braces between these two pieces here. Don't know whether or not to join the two mounts on the bottom. And we've also still got to make a mount from the bottom of the engine up to the chassis rail. If you have any ideas or things on way we can make this safer, then please let us know. I hope you've enjoyed watching just as much as I've enjoyed putting this engine in. To see the engine in our truck is massive, and it's so rewarding just to see such a major improvement to the truck. But that is all I'm going to cover in today's video, and we will catch you in the next one.